Durango, Mexico, November 8, 1963. The dust hasn't settled from the explosion when everyone realizes something has gone terribly wrong. Bobby Martinez, 34 years old, and one of Hollywood's most experienced stuntmen, lies motionless in the dirt after attempting a dangerous horse fall that was supposed to be performed by John Wayne. The scene was meant to show Wayne's character being thrown from his mount during a gunfight, but Wayne's recent back injury made the stunt too risky for the 56-year-old actor to attempt himself. Martinez volunteered to double the shot, as he had done countless times before, but this time the timing went wrong. The horse stumbled, and Martinez hit the ground at a fatal angle. In the next 15 years, his death will haunt not only John Wayne, but create a cycle of grief, anger, and eventual forgiveness that reveals the true cost of making entertainment that audiences take for granted. The filming of McLintock was supposed to be one of the lighter experiences of Wayne's career, a comedy western that allowed him to work with his frequent co-star Maureen O'Hara. The production was designed to be enjoyable rather than grueling. The script called for physical comedy and dramatic pratfalls, but nothing that seemed particularly dangerous by the standards Wayne had worked under for 30 years. But even comedy westerns require stunts, and the insurance companies that cover major productions have become increasingly concerned about allowing aging stars to perform their own dangerous work. At 56, Wayne is still physically capable, but he's not the young man who once insisted on doing every stunt himself, regardless of the risk involved. Bobby Martinez represents the new generation of professional stuntmen who make their living substituting for actors who have become too valuable for studios to risk in dangerous scenes. Martinez has been working as Wayne's double for 3 years, handling the most physically demanding shots while Wayne focuses on dialogue and character development. The relationship between Wayne and Martinez goes beyond simple professional collaboration. Wayne respects Martinez's skill and courage, while Martinez admires Wayne's dedication to authentic action sequences. They have developed the kind of trust that allows Wayne to watch someone else risk his life to make Wayne's character look heroic. Maria Martinez understands the dangers of her husband's profession, but she has learned to live with the constant worry that comes with being married to a stuntman. Bobby has been injured multiple times over his 8-year career: broken bones, concussions, burns from explosion scenes, but he has always recovered and returned to work with characteristic determination. What Maria cannot understand is why her husband continues to risk his life so that wealthy movie stars can pretend to be brave without facing any real consequences. He makes $1,000 a year, Maria often tells her friends. John Wayne makes $1 million, but Bobby is the one who might die. The November 8th stunt involves a relatively simple sequence by professional standards. Wayne's character is supposed to be knocked from his horse during a gunfight with bandits, roll to safety, and continue shooting from behind cover. The shot requires precise timing between the horse's movement, a controlled fall, and the choreographed gunfire that creates the illusion of combat. Martinez has performed similar stunts dozens of times with different actors and various horses. The key is establishing clear communication between rider and mount, ensuring that the horse understands exactly when and how to react to create the desired dramatic effect without causing injury to its passenger. But something goes wrong with the timing. Whether it's a miscommunication between Martinez and the horse handler, an unexpected reaction from the animal, or simply the kind of random accident that can happen despite the most careful preparation. The sequence doesn't unfold as planned. Martinez hits the ground harder than intended and at an angle that causes catastrophic spinal damage. Wayne is watching the stunt from his position near the cameras when he sees Martinez fall. Wayne has watched hundreds of stunts over the years, and he knows immediately that something is seriously wrong. The way Martinez hits the ground, the way his body goes limp, the unnatural position of his limbs all signal a severity of injury that goes far beyond the normal risks of stunt work. Have you ever witnessed an accident that you knew immediately was life-changing? That moment when time seems to stop and you understand that nothing will ever be the same for the people involved. The medical response is swift but ultimately futile. Martinez is rushed to a hospital in Durango where doctors confirm what everyone feared: massive spinal trauma that has resulted in immediate paralysis and internal injuries that prove fatal within hours. Martinez dies without regaining consciousness, leaving behind Maria and their 2 young children, ages 6 and 8. Wayne's reaction to Martinez's death is complex and deeply personal. He feels responsible not because of any professional negligence, but because Martinez died performing a stunt that was meant to protect Wayne from injury. The guilt of watching another man die in his place creates an emotional burden that Wayne struggles to process and articulate. "He died so I could pretend to be tough," Wayne tells director Andrew McLaglen. "That's not right. That's not how it's supposed to work." McLaglen tries to reassure Wayne that Martinez's death was a tragic accident, not the result of anyone's poor judgment or careless planning. "Bobby knew the risks, Duke. He was a professional who made his own choices about what jobs to accept." But Wayne's guilt isn't based on rational analysis of professional responsibility. It's rooted in the fundamental unfairness of a system that allows wealthy celebrities to avoid the consequences of the heroic images they project, while working-class stuntmen bear all the physical risks for a fraction of the financial reward. The funeral arrangements for Martinez become Wayne's responsibility, despite the fact that the studio's insurance policies technically cover such expenses. Wayne insists on paying for everything personally and ensures that Maria and the children are provided for beyond what the standard death benefits require. But Wayne's gesture of financial responsibility cannot address the deeper emotional devastation that Martinez's death has created. When Wayne appears at the funeral to pay his respects, he encounters a level of raw grief and anger that no amount of money can resolve. Maria Martinez sees Wayne enter the funeral home and immediately understands who he is and why he's there. The sight of the wealthy actor who is alive while her husband is dead triggers a response that shocks everyone present and creates a confrontation that will haunt both of them for the next 15 years. "You," Maria shouts across the funeral home, pointing at Wayne with trembling fingers. "You're alive. Bobby is dead, and you're alive." The funeral home falls silent as Maria approaches Wayne with the kind of focused rage that comes from grief too profound to contain. Wayne stands perfectly still, understanding that anything he says or does will only make the situation worse. "He died for you," Maria continues, her voice rising with each word. "My husband died so you could make your movie. So you could be safe, so you could go home to your family while mine is buried in the ground." Wayne attempts to respond, But Maria's anger overwhelms any possibility of rational conversation. "Don't you dare say anything to me. Don't you dare tell me you're sorry. Sorry doesn't bring him back. Sorry doesn't feed my children. Sorry doesn't mean anything from someone who gets rich while other people die." The confrontation ends only when Maria's family members intervene to lead her away from Wayne, recognizing that her grief has created a level of anger that cannot be resolved through conversation or apology. Wayne leaves the funeral home without speaking, understanding that his presence has only added to Maria's pain. The impact of Maria's confrontation affects Wayne profoundly, adding a layer of personal guilt to his existing feelings of professional responsibility for Martinez's death. Wayne has faced criticism from movie critics, political opponents, and industry rivals, but he has never before been held personally accountable for another man's death by that man's widow. "She's right," Wayne tells his wife Pilar. "Bobby died and I lived. There's no way to make that fair, or just, or acceptable. I'm responsible for his death, whether the lawyers and insurance companies say so or not." Wayne's guilt over Martinez's death influences his approach to subsequent film projects, making him more cautious about stunt work and more insistent on safety protocols that previous productions might have considered excessive. Wayne also begins personally funding safety improvements for stuntmen on his films, including better protective equipment and more comprehensive medical coverage. But Wayne's most significant response to Martinez's death is his decision to establish a foundation that provides financial support and educational opportunities for the families of stuntmen killed during film productions. The Bobby Martinez Memorial Fund becomes one of Wayne's most important charitable endeavors, though he rarely discusses it publicly. For 15 years, Wayne carries the weight of Maria's anger along with his own guilt about Martinez's death. The foundation Wayne established provides financial support to Maria and her children, but the money is distributed through intermediaries to avoid any direct contact that might remind Maria of the confrontation at her husband's funeral. Wayne occasionally asks about Maria's welfare through mutual acquaintances in the Latino community of Los Angeles, learning that she has successfully raised her children as a single mother while working as a seamstress to supplement the foundation's support. But Wayne never attempts to contact Maria directly, respecting her apparent desire to avoid any interaction with him. The situation changes dramatically in 1978 when Wayne receives his own terminal cancer diagnosis. The news that Wayne has developed stomach cancer and faces the possibility of death within months creates an unexpected shift in the dynamic between Wayne and Maria Martinez. When Maria learns about Wayne's illness through newspaper coverage, her initial reaction surprises even herself. Instead of satisfaction at the prospect of Wayne facing his own mortality, Maria feels something closer to sympathy for a man who will soon understand the kind of loss she has carried for 15 years. But Maria's decision to visit Wayne in the hospital represents more than simple sympathy. It reflects a fundamental change in her understanding of the relationship between her husband's death and Wayne's survival, and a recognition that carrying anger for 15 years has created its own form of suffering. The hospital visit takes place on a quiet Tuesday afternoon in March 1978, when Wayne is between chemotherapy treatments and feeling strong enough to receive visitors. Maria arrives unannounced, telling the nurses that she's an old family friend and finds Wayne sitting alone in his room, reading scripts and trying to maintain some connection to the work that has defined his identity for 50 years. Wayne looks up from his reading when Maria enters the room, and the recognition is immediate and complex. 15 years have passed since their confrontation at Bobby's funeral, but neither has forgotten the intensity of that encounter or the emotions it represented. "Mrs. Martinez," Wayne says, carefully closing the script he was reading, "I wasn't expecting to see you." Maria approaches Wayne's bedside slowly, studying his appearance and comparing the vital movie star she remembered with the cancer patient sitting before her. "You look older," she observes. "Sicker, more like a regular person." Wayne nods, understanding that Maria's comment isn't meant as an insult, but as an observation about the equalizing effect of serious illness. "Cancer doesn't care if you're a movie star or a working man," Wayne replies. "It kills everyone the same way." The conversation that follows becomes one of the most emotionally significant encounters of Wayne's life, though it takes place without witnesses and away from the Hollywood spotlight that has shaped most of Wayne's public interactions. "I hated you for 15 years, Maria tells Wayne. "Every day, I woke up hating you for being alive while Bobby was dead. Every time I saw your name in the newspaper or your face on television, I felt angry all over again." Wayne listens without defending himself, recognizing that Maria has earned the right to express whatever feelings she needs to share. "I understand," Wayne responds. "I've hated myself for 15 years for the same reason." Maria studies Wayne's face, looking for signs of insincerity or manipulation, but finding only the kind of weariness that comes from carrying guilt too heavy to bear alone. "You really have felt bad about it all this time." "Every day," Wayne confirms. "Bobby died doing something I should have been doing myself. That's not something a man can ever forget or forgive himself for." The admission that Wayne has carried his own burden of guilt creates an unexpected connection between them, allowing Maria to see Wayne not as the invulnerable movie star she has resented, but as another person damaged by Bobby's death in ways she hadn't previously considered. "I came here to tell you something," Maria continues. "Something I should have said 15 years ago, but I was too angry and too hurt to understand it then." Wayne waits for Maria to continue, sensing that whatever she needs to say will be important for both of them. "Bobby loved you," Maria says, her voice softening for the first time since she entered the room. "Not personally. He didn't know you personally, but he loved what you represented. He loved your movies and your characters and the idea of being John Wayne, even if it was just for a few minutes during a stunt." Wayne feels his eyes fill with tears at Maria's words, understanding that she's offering him a perspective on her husband's death that he has never considered. "When Bobby took that job doubling for you, he wasn't just earning money," Maria continues. "He was living his dream. He got to be John Wayne, even if no one would ever know it was him. That meant everything to Bobby." The revelation that Martinez viewed his stunt work as an opportunity to embody the heroic qualities Wayne represented, rather than simply as dangerous employment for financial necessity, fundamentally changes Wayne's understanding of what happened on November 8, 1963. Bobby died doing what he loved. Maria concludes, "He died being the kind of hero he wanted to be. I can't hate you for that anymore, because hating you means hating what Bobby loved most." Wayne is openly crying now, overwhelmed by Maria's generosity and by the realization that his 15 years of guilt may have been based on a misunderstanding of Martinez's motivations and feelings about his work. "Mrs. Martinez," Wayne manages to say through his tears, "I never deserved Bobby's sacrifice. I never deserved to live while he died. I've spent 15 years knowing that." Maria reaches out and takes Wayne's hand, the first time they have touched since their confrontation at Bobby's funeral. "Maybe that's not the right question," she suggests. "Maybe the question isn't whether you deserve to live. Maybe the question is what you did with the life Bobby gave you." Maria's reframing of Wayne's survival as an opportunity rather than an injustice creates a profound shift in his understanding of his responsibility to Martinez's memory. Instead of viewing his continued life as evidence of cosmic unfairness, Maria is suggesting that Wayne honor Martinez by making his survival meaningful. "The foundation you started," Maria continues, "the money you've sent to help my children, that's what Bobby would have wanted. He would have wanted his death to mean something, to help other families, to make things better." Wayne realizes that Maria knows about the Bobby Martinez Memorial Fund, despite his efforts to keep his involvement anonymous. "How did you know?" Wayne asks. "I've always known," Maria responds. "You can't help hundreds of stuntmen's families without word getting around. People talk. They say John Wayne takes care of us because he feels responsible for Bobby. That makes me proud of my husband." The knowledge that Maria has been aware of Wayne's charitable work for years while maintaining her anger toward him personally reveals the complexity of her feelings and the careful distinctions she has drawn between Wayne's public responsibilities and his private guilt. "I want you to know something else," Maria adds. "My children know who their father was and what he died doing. They know he was brave and good, and that he helped John Wayne be a hero. They're proud of him." Wayne understands that Maria is offering him something precious, permission to remember Martinez as a hero rather than a victim, and forgiveness for surviving when Martinez could not. The conversation continues for nearly 2 hours, covering 15 years of accumulated grief, guilt, and misunderstanding. Maria shares memories of Bobby's excitement about working with Wayne, his pride in being trusted with dangerous stunts, and his dreams of eventually becoming a stunt coordinator himself. Wayne shares his own memories of Martinez's professionalism, his courage, and his generosity in risking his life to protect Wayne from injury. Wayne also talks about the guilt he has carried and his efforts to honor Martinez's memory through charitable work and improved safety standards for stuntmen. By the end of their conversation, both Maria and Wayne understand that Martinez's death, while tragic, was the result of a brave man doing work he believed in, rather than a simple case of class exploitation or professional negligence. "I forgive you," Maria tells Wayne as she prepares to leave. "Not because you asked for forgiveness, but because holding on to anger for 15 years has hurt me more than it's hurt you, and because Bobby would want me to forgive you." Wayne's response captures the depth of his gratitude for Maria's generosity. "Thank you for giving me back Bobby's memory. I've spent 15 years thinking of him as a victim. You've helped me remember him as a hero." Maria's visit to Wayne's hospital room marks the beginning of a renewed relationship based on shared respect for Martinez's memory, rather than competing claims of guilt and victimhood. Over Wayne's remaining months, Maria visits him several times, and they develop a friendship based on their mutual desire to ensure that Martinez's sacrifice is remembered appropriately. When Wayne dies in June 1979, Maria attends his funeral, not as a grieving widow seeking closure, but as a friend honoring a man who learned to carry his guilt with dignity and transform it into positive action for others. At Wayne's funeral, Maria meets Wayne's children and shares with them the story of their father's relationship with Bobby Martinez. She tells them about Bobby's admiration for their father and about Wayne's 15 years of charitable work honoring Bobby's memory. "Your father was a good man who made a mistake into a mission," Maria tells Wayne's son Patrick. "He spent 15 years trying to make Bobby's death mean something positive. That's how you measure a person's character." The Bobby Martinez Memorial Fund continues operating after Wayne's death, administered by the Wayne family and supported by contributions from actors, stuntmen, and film industry professionals who understand the importance of caring for families affected by on-set accidents. Maria becomes involved with the foundation's work, using her perspective as a widow and her connections within the Latino community to help identify families who need assistance. Her involvement ensures that the foundation maintains focus on the human impact of stunt work rather than treating safety as simply a technical or financial issue. In 1985, 6 years after Wayne's death, Maria speaks at a film industry safety conference about the long-term impact of stunt-related fatalities on families and communities. Her speech becomes one of the most powerful advocacy statements ever made about the human cost of entertainment production. When a stuntman dies making a movie, Maria tells the conference, the movie gets finished and people forget. But the family remembers every day for the rest of their lives. We need safety standards that protect not just the stuntmen, but the families who depend on them. Maria's advocacy work leads to significant improvements in industry safety standards and insurance coverage for stuntmen and their families. The changes she helps implement save lives and provide better support for families affected by on-set accidents. Today, 60 years after Bobby Martinez's death, the foundation that Wayne established in his memory has helped thousands of families and contributed to dramatic improvements in stunt safety standards. The foundation's work represents a transformation of tragedy into positive change that honors both Martinez's sacrifice and Wayne's commitment to making that sacrifice meaningful. Maria Martinez lived until 2018, dying at the age of 89 after a life dedicated to raising her children, honoring her husband's memory, and advocating for stunt safety. Her children both graduated from college with support from Wayne's Foundation, and they continue their mother's advocacy work. At Maria's funeral, speakers included actors, stuntmen, and safety advocates who credited her with transforming the film industry's approach to protecting the people who risk their lives to create entertainment. But the most meaningful tribute came from a letter written by Patrick Wayne and read by Maria's daughter. "Maria Martinez taught my father that guilt could become grace if you use it to help other people," the letter read. She turned 15 years of anger into a lifetime of forgiveness, and she helped my father transform his worst moment into his most meaningful work. That's the kind of strength and wisdom that changes the world. The relationship between John Wayne and Maria Martinez represents one of Hollywood's most powerful stories about responsibility, forgiveness, and the transformation of tragedy into positive action. Their 15-year journey from confrontation to reconciliation demonstrates that even the deepest wounds can heal when people choose understanding over anger and service over self-pity. Bobby Martinez died doing work he loved for a cause he believed in, and his death ultimately led to changes that have protected thousands of other stuntmen and their families. Maria Martinez learned to transform her grief into advocacy that has saved lives and improved conditions for working families throughout the entertainment industry. John Wayne learned that survival carries responsibility, not just guilt, but the obligation to make survival meaningful through service to others. His response to Martinez's death became one of his most important legacies, proving that heroism isn't just about what you do on screen, but how you respond to real tragedy when the cameras stop rolling. Sometimes the most important stories are about ordinary people doing extraordinary things to honor the memory of those they've lost. Sometimes forgiveness comes not from forgetting, but from finding meaning in suffering. And sometimes the greatest heroes are the widows who choose love over hate, and the movie stars who spend 15 years learning that true courage means taking responsibility for the consequences of the images you help create. And unfortunately, they don't make people like Maria Martinez and John Wayne anymore. People who understand that anger can become service, that guilt can become grace, and that the highest form of heroism is using your pain to help prevent others from experiencing the same loss. The legacy of Bobby Martinez's death and the reconciliation between Wayne and Maria continues to influence the film industry's approach to stunt safety decades later. Modern productions operate under safety standards directly influenced by reforms Wayne implemented following Martinez's death. The Bobby Martinez Memorial Fund evolved into the Stuntmen's Safety Foundation, which now operates internationally and has helped establish safety protocols used throughout the global film industry. Wayne's approach to handling Martinez's death became a model for how major stars can take responsibility for crew member safety. The personal transformation that both Wayne and Maria underwent demonstrates the power of choosing forgiveness over resentment. Their story has been cited by counselors and grief support organizations as an example of how people can move beyond traumatic loss while honoring those who were lost. Film schools now teach courses on production ethics that include case studies of the Wayne Martinez situation, helping future filmmakers understand the moral obligations that come with creating entertainment requiring others to risk their safety. Maria Martinez's evolution from angry widow to safety advocate demonstrates the potential for personal transformation in even the most difficult circumstances. Her ability to channel grief into productive action helped other families avoid similar losses.